12 countries, 8,000 photos and one winner. I'm excited to be here to introduce to you the very first virtual announcement of the PEFC Photographer of the Year award. Earlier this year, our PEFC members called on photographers, professional and amateur, to enter their fabulous forest photos. After some tricky decisions, our members chose their national winners, many of which we have featured here on our Facebook page. We, at PEFC International, then had the pleasure of choosing from the best of these photos for our PEFC Photographer of the Year Award 2020. Today, we're going to reveal our winners and show you their amazing photos. Ben, our CEO, and Lucas, an experienced photography enthusiast, will take us through the 11 runners-up, highlighting their photographic and forestry merits, before we go on to announce our main winner. We'll then hear from Victor, a self-taught photographer and key member of the PEFC International jury, who will explain why we chose this photo as our winner. But before we get to that, for many of you today, this is going to be the first time that you've ever heard of PEFC. So who are we? At PEFC, we work for the sustainable management of the world's forests. And we do this through something called forest certification. Forest certification is essentially a set of requirements and criteria that forest owners have to follow. While this might sound complicated, it's not. And the best part is, it enables you to make a difference. Next time you go shopping, look for the PEFC label. You can find it on a range of products, from paper to furniture, homewares, toys, and so much more. The PEFC label means that the wood within that product comes from a sustainably managed forest. By choosing a PEFC certified product, you can help make a difference in protecting the world's forests. And our forests are amazing. They help mitigate against climate change, they maintain water quality, and they stabilise soils. They also provide food and livelihoods to millions of people around the world, as well as being home to an extraordinary amount of biodiversity. But we need to manage these forests sustainably, and that is where our work at PEFC comes in. And while I could talk for the rest of the day about our work, it's now time to get down to why we are really here today, to reveal our 12 best photos. And with that, I will hand over to Ben, who has the wonderful task of announcing our winners. Ben, over to you.
So thanks, Hannah. I'm delighted to reveal our 11 runner-up photos before the big announcement, the winner of the PEFC Photographer of the Year 2020 award. Today I'm joined by Lucas, a photography enthusiast, and together we're going to talk about what makes these 12 photos so special and why they have been chosen. Lucas, over to you.
Hi Ben, thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure and honor to be able to participate in this announcement. I'd just like to say before we get started that the quality of the pictures that are submitted to the PEFC photo contest over the years have always been exceptional, and it's been a great joy to watch the competition progress over the years.
Okay, so let's get started then with the first photograph. This one is called Forest Submerged in Clouds, and I have to say it's an amazing photograph. It reminds me of flying over a forest and looking out from an airplane downwards, but this one was taken by a drone, wasn't it, Lucas?
It was indeed. It's a brilliant drone shot, and the fact that a drone was used, this new up and coming technology was used, gives photographers a whole different perspective on their subjects and the landscapes and the photos that they take. Because whereas back in the day you had to use a plane to do this sort of photography, now with a simple yet effective tool, you can see things in a completely different light and from a completely different angle as well.
Right, and so it's not just any old forest. This is a forest in Slovakia, and it was taken by Martin Sebesta. I suppose it must be pretty amazing when you're looking at something when the camera is so far away from you.
Yes, you do have to think about what your positioning and how you are going to see it, how people are going to see it, and how your drone's going to see it. And what's special about this picture is the way that the crisp, cool colors and the broken pattern of clouds with the forest coming through it just draw the eye into the picture. I can only imagine what the photographer felt and thought when all of a sudden his drone came out of the mist or the fog and saw this beautiful patch of light highlighting the trees poking out of the frost, I believe, as well.
Yeah, and we're so lucky he shared it with us, and we're glad to see it here in the competition. So let's then move on to the next photograph. This one is called Creature of the Forest. It's by Grigor Andrei Lazur. I have to say, as a forester, I find this an amazing photograph, because this is one of those photographs where you catch a deer which hasn't actually spotted you, but it's heard something. It's looking in another direction. Beautiful photograph. It looks as if it may have been framed up for ages, but probably taken very quickly. What do you say?
Absolutely. It was taken quickly. I'm sure an enormous amount of patience went into it. But what strikes me is that there's a very warm light and an alert deer, but there's an amazing depth to the picture. Your eyes really drawn in through slightly soft focus of the picture, the framing, the break-in patterns, so the deer standing out against the backlit background. It just highlights the beauty of the moment, the patience of the photographer, and how beautiful the forests are.
Yeah, and it's capturing a really scarce moment, which you don't often see in a forest. You need to be quiet, you need to be patient to come across something like that. And it's absolutely moving when you actually do see it. So a lovely photograph. But let's now move on to the next photograph. This is a really interesting one. This is called The Blue Carpet. And it's actually one of two photographs that we've got, which have been taken in the Arboretum at Tervuren in Belgium. So this is by Wim de Baets. Again, an absolutely delight to the eyes, particularly for a forester to see the squirrel coming down the tree. Tell us a little bit about this photograph.
What struck me the first time I looked at this picture was the fact that through using a fairly shallow depth of field, so the background of the picture is blurred, the detail and the presence of the squirrel are just brought out. The fact that the slightly red, or the red squirrel against the green background highlights a contrast, along with the clarity, the amazing clarity of the picture. You can see the detail from the ears, from the fur, on the eyes, just highlights what a special moment it was. And I mean, it's an amazingly cute squirrel, and it has its eyes on the prize, whatever it might be. And I can just imagine the time it took to get the right shot, to get the right squirrel at the right time. And well done for the photographer for that.
Yeah,
the patience must be incredible.
Yeah, the photographer actually says that Wim actually tells us that he sat there for days completely camouflaged, waiting for the perfect moment. So the thing's framed with forest hyacinths. I mean, beautiful photograph. Yeah. Absolutely beautiful photograph. Okay, let's then move on to the next one. This one here is actually from Chile. The photographer is Guillermo Feuerhacke and it's called Autumn Mist. Now this is actually one that's looks like a very magical photo. You sort of feel as if you're in a movie or something like that. It's actually in a national park in Chile with a lot of variety of tree species, but this is the Araucaria tree, which is otherwise known as the monkey puzzle tree. Fantastic tree. I usually only ever see them in parks or gardens or something like that, but never in nature. So this is an amazing photograph. Tell us a little bit about this photograph, Lucas.
The first thing that really stands out for this picture is the drama, the ambiance, as the French would say. It's the contrast of the dark areas, the light areas, and the light streaming in from the right of the picture, which really make it special. I'm sure it was a tricky picture to take. There are a lot of different lighting settings and shadows and contrasts, and everything's perfectly exposed, which just brings it out and brings it to life almost. There are photography has a whole lot of rules with composition, and one of them is the rule of thirds, which say that in strategic places in a picture, subject should be positioned in thirds. But rules are meant to be broken, and this is an example of that. The tree in the middle, the monkey puzzle, just stands out. And even though it's in the middle of the picture where, according to rules, it shouldn't be, it just works. And it jumps to the forefront with the light, the contrast, the shadows. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's an absolutely beautiful photograph. Yeah. So let's move on then to the next photograph. This is one which is called Harmony. It's by Vlad Inescu from Romania. I have to say this is again an amazing photograph, which makes me feel as if I've got vertigo, and you know the roads and everything. It's my 17-year-old son would be delighted about this and would be expecting to see Formula One cars racing up and down this. But I see just the beautiful interconnection with nature, with the trees and with the roads. You know, the connection between humans and nature itself. But tell us a bit more about the actual skills that were used here for making this photograph.
I mean, personally, I'm a big fan of drone shots. I think they revolutionize how landscapes and subjects can be viewed. I have to say the first thing I wrote down, I was taking notes on the pictures on this one, was Harmony. I didn't even realize it was actually called Harmony. You can really see that through the pattern of green, which is broken by the road, with details of the trucks and the vehicles that are actually on the road. The photographers brought forward this harmony between nature and man. Nature is going, well, the forests are going on about their business, whereas people are going on their everyday lives, driving along this amazing road. And this picture also has a beautiful flow because the road arrives at the bottom of the picture or at the top of the picture and then flows all the way through and isn't cut, which gives a continuation to the shot.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's nice. We know it's a road, but very often we see similar types of photographs with rivers, but it's actually really nice to have been done with a road. It gives a lovely new perspective on the way humans interact and also with nature as well. But Absolutely. Then on to the next photograph. This is one of the ones actually in the, it's called the Gems of the Borneo Jungle. It's by Tuan Aufo Othman from Malaysia. The bird is actually the blue-banded pitta, and it's one of the endemic birds of Borneo. And again, it's one of those photographs where the photographer took a lot of time to set up the gear to take this particular photograph. But what I love about it is it's like a necklace, sort of like a sparkling blue necklace on this wonderful red shirt or chest. It's a beautiful bird. But you know, people could take pictures of birds, but then there's a lot of what makes this picture so special about this bird.
It's just the vivid colors of the bird combined with the depth of field, so another shallow focus picture, bring the bird to the forefront. It's got detail, it's got clarity, and the one thing I noticed the first time I looked at it is that when you see the image a little bigger, you could see that there's a slight reflection on the bird's eye, so a catch eye, as we call it in photography, and that draws the viewer in immediately to the bird.
Right.
Again, I think I saw some of the technical details on this picture. It was taken with a very long lens, and pictures like that are very, very hard to get right.
Yeah.
And they have here.
That's a beautiful photograph. Yeah. So let's then move on to the next one. I have to say, I just love this photograph. It's the one about the enchanted Malakiri mangroves. It's on a beach, a very unique beach. It's one of those photography examples that just immediately spoke to me when I first saw it, and I can't really explain why. I just think it's a lovely photograph with the water and the trees and the sky. But you'll tell us now, why is this such a special photograph? What makes it so special?
Well, for me, it's just so soothing and calming and beautiful. The colors work, they're vivid. And the fact that the photographers use a slightly, but just a touch a longer exposure, smooths out any movement there could have been in the water. And they've also used a very, very high depth of field. So there's clarity going all the way through the picture. The other thing you can notice is that there is a slight bit of framing from the trees on either side, frame the trees that are in the middle, which then frame an object, I believe it's a tree stump or something a bit further out, that really draws the viewer in to the picture. And fabulous, fabulous.
It does have a very, very magical feel about it, and beautiful photograph. Okay, then moving on to the next one. This is one that makes me feel a little bit at home, although it's not anywhere near my home country. This is one called In the Mountains. And this is by Attila Palhegne from Romania. And what you see here are sheep on their way to the Horse Falls in September. I find it's a beautiful photograph because it's a different, it's obviously some kind of a track which is still being used. It's a combination of forestry and agriculture. And the trees are quite young as well on a mountainside. It's quite a steep path, and I just love the way that my eyes get pulled up there, and the fact that forestry and sheep herding can work in harmony as they do in my home country in Scotland, but this is in Romania. It's just nice to see it. I felt immediately at home. So tell us a little bit about this photograph, Lucas.
The first thing that struck me was that the way it was presented, or the way it is presented, is that it's in the portrait format, which is unusual for a landscape picture, a picture of a landscape, should I say. But it just goes to prove that rules are actually there to be broken and played within photography. And it's also the fact there's this leading line of the path that draws the viewer in. The viewer sees sheep, and then he keeps going up the path, sees more sheep, and you just get drawn in, and you can imagine yourself there just standing, looking at the sheep that's closest, looking out over the sheep that's furthest away. And one of the notes I said is that I assume it's an example of of two separate forest-related industries or jobs combining to cohabit and live together and work together. I think you pointed out.
Yeah.
More harmony in nature.
Yeah, that's fantastic to see that photograph. Okay, then let's move on. Now we're going to be moving to the Tollymore Forest Park in Northern Ireland, and this is just called Foley's Bridge. So it's a bridge which the photographer Agnieszka Glowala from Northern Ireland visited several times to try and get this photograph. And it's a stunning bridge in beautiful autumn colors. So tell us a little bit about this photograph, Lucas.
The first thing you notice when you look at the picture is that it's a long exposure. I think it's about 3 seconds, if I'm not mistaken. And it captures, at the same time, it captures the movement of the flow of water downriver. And you can also note in different parts of the picture, the water is moving at different speeds. So upstream from the bridge, it's moving fast because it's coming around little rapids, downstream as well. But between the two, it's smooth, it's calm, it's peaceful.
Wow.
And the fact that the depth of field is well set up, it really draws the viewer in. So you're drawn in upstream, up past the fast bit, the slow bit, through the bridge, next fast bit, into the forest. Really works. It's just so calming. Right. You can imagine being somewhere like that and enjoying it and relaxing and taking pictures.
What I really like about it is it's not a modern bridge. You feel as if you could be back in time. We're in modern times, obviously, but we see something, and you know that humans have been here for hundreds of years. That bridge may be easily 200 years old. It looks more like the kind of the bridges that were built in the late 1700s, early 1800s, and then later on converted then possibly for traffic. I've no idea because I've never been to Foley's Bridge, but I'd really like to go. It's a lovely photograph. Okay, so then let's go on to the next photo. This is one from Giselle Soto Campos from Chile, and it's actually called Between the Thaw and the Patagonian Forest. The thaw being, of course, a glacier at the top there, and the photographer tells us that there was a lot of rumbling caused by the melting water, which of course can't be captured by the photograph, but it was something that he and his family, when they were out on that trek, really noticed, and he then took this particular photograph. So tell us a little bit more about this photograph, Lucas.
I mean, it's a very impressive picture. it just shows the majesty of the retreating glaciers pulling back through the valleys. And the thing that struck me from a photographic point of view was that there are contrasts of light all over the place. Some areas are dark, some areas are light. It must have been quite cloudy when it was taken, but you just get the light streaming through. I got the impression, this is just me, that the image is slightly underexposed, which in turn brought out the highlights because the darker bits went darker and the lighter bits were still light. The one thing that also struck me is that if you look at the waterfall coming off the glacier at the bottom, an extremely high shutter speed was used, which really freezes it in time. It was 1/4000th of a second was used to take this picture, which just transfixes the water droplets at the bottom of the waterfall, and just instead of having a picture which sort of moves through its life, it's a snapshot in time.
Yeah,
which is brilliant.
and I just love the fact that there's the foreground in the middle and then the background. Yeah, I mean, my eyes keep starting all over this photograph to see the different areas with the lights lighting up, you know, the mountain in the front and the plants and the left.
That's technically that's not normally what should happen, but in this case, it works amazingly well.
Yeah, no, a lovely photograph. Okay, then let's move on to the next one. And this is another one that was taken in the Tervuren Arboretum in Belgium. This is a photograph that's called Traveling in Your Own Country by Peter van der Heide from Belgium. And when he says traveling in your own country, this is part of the Arboretum, which is dedicated to Northwest America. So the tree species which are planted there. For me, as a forester who's been doing a lot of work initially in coniferous forests, I find this a beautiful example of a mature coniferous forest, and the light coming through reminds me of days when I used to sort of go to work in certain parts of the forest. I won't say it's a common sight, but it captures it beautifully, and it brings out emotions in me which go back, 30 years of being a forestry worker when I first started out in forestry. Of course, we never had such grandiose trees as they have in Northwest America, but nevertheless, it is the way, and it's the sort of thing that people should see a lot more in forestry to understand how beautiful they are. But Lucas, tell us a little bit more about this photograph.
What struck me the first time I saw this was the peacefulness of the whole shot. The light streaming through the trees creates contrast, creates a bit of mystery, but it's a warm light, so there's it just drags you in. We've all been in forests when it's been sunny, and it just takes you back to that happy place. And there's a beautiful symmetry to the trees, all standing straight with a path running up the middle, and that all works to frame perfectly. On a technical note, I noticed this picture was taken on a phone, which is amazing because it just goes to show that anyone in any circumstances can achieve brilliant pictures. It is just fabulous with the technology we have at our disposal in our pockets. It works really, really well.
Well, Lucas, now we've seen our 11 runners-up, and now it's time for the big announcement, the winner. I am delighted to reveal that Cheryl Karif from West Java, Indonesia, is the winner of the PEFC Photographer of the Year 2020 award with a stunning photo called Morning Activities. I just have to say, wow. Love the fishermen, love the greenery. As a forester, we like green, love the water reflections. What's there not to like about this photograph? Tell us a bit more about it, Lucas.
Everything works on this picture. The light, the movement captured, it's fabulous. It is really amazing.
Well, it's definitely a well-deserved winner, and I think now it's time for me to hand over to Victor, a member of our international jury, to explain why the jury chose Cheryl's photo as our winner.
Thanks, Ben. The winning picture was taken in the GD Pangrango National Park in Indonesia. It shows two fishermen working with a traditional net on a pirogue. The scene is surrounded by a dense tropical forest. Now I'm gonna give you the key points that drove the jury to choose this picture as the winner for PEFC International Photographer of the year 2020. The first impression you have is a good indicator to judge a picture. No rules, no regulations, nothing but the feeling. It's in the first 2 seconds that the judgment is the most intuitive. Well, that first impression was amazing. Everyone agreed on that. Let's dive a bit more into what we've seen. And I will start with a subjective angle. The atmosphere of the morning on this picture is calm and conveys some kind of appeasement, silent. There are 2 humans at the very center of the composition. The action, even in this quiet environment, is the key. The launch of the net, the moment, the link between the fisherman and life underwater. This reminds us that the human being can be part of the nature in a beautiful way. Now let's talk about the picture objectively. The composition with the subject at the very center breaks some basic rules, but definitely increases the reading. The action is eye-catching, surrounded by a peaceful and almost static environment. The light is really soft and adds some magic to the scene, though the color scale of the picture gives a natural look and feel and contributes to the general serene mood. Well, these are the main reasons why the jury chose this picture as the winner. And now I'm delighted to hand over to Cheryl Carroll, our PEFC International Photographer of the year 2020.
Hello, I'm Khairil from Bandung, West Java, Indonesia. First, I would like to say thank you to all judges who have chosen my picture to be the winner of 2020 PEFC Photographer of the Year competition. I'm really happy right now to be the winner of this competition. It is great that my photo can be open people's eyes for the importance of the forest. Once again, thank you.
A huge congratulations to Cheryl Carroll for being our PEFC Photographer of the Year 2020. And thank you to all the photographers that took part this year. We received so many amazing photos, it was really hard for us to choose just 12. We'd also like to thank all the jury members, national and international, for providing their time and their expertise. We couldn't have done it without you. And finally, a big thank you to all of you for joining us here today. We hope you love the photos as much as we do. If you want to see them again, as well as a selection of the best national photos, follow the link that you can see on the screen now. And watch out next year, the PEFC Photo Contest will be back in 2021. From all of us here at the PEFC International team, thank you and goodbye.